get into electing chairman, I'd just like to welcome everyone around the table and mention what a weighty responsibility this is, how important it is. We've gone through the census process. We felt like that we were successful. Mr. Sandlin, Deputy Mayor, helped spearhead that process this past year, so we could get the numbers in, and with our tremendous growth, it will have impacts on where, even for school boards, where people are zoned and where people vote. So every 10 years it creates a change, and people don't like change. But it's a very important process that we go through to give everybody one person, one vote is what we strive for, to make sure that everyone has that opportunity to vote by redistricting based on population. So those numbers should be coming in fairly soon, and that will be your responsibility. I'll step aside once we elect a chairman, and that you all can conduct your business. Keeping in mind, we have a very short window from by the time, Alan, we get the numbers, August, early September, candidates will start picking up their petitions in December that have to be turned in by February for a primary in May, and the general in August. So it's a very short window, and thank goodness we have GIS, Mr. Curtis, that will help us. When I first got elected back in the 90s, we went through reapportionment, and we just looked at some maps with Amy Williams, and I remember going in and going, why didn't you draw the line down the middle of that road? Why can't you just move it over? Because my argument with her was, she was looking at numbers, but at the same time, keep in mind, you've got kids who lived across the street from each other and grew up and played with each other. And now you're going to draw a line to make them go to different schools and, different life paths, if you will, when those families were together. So I'm trying to keep that in mind, but we have the technology that can help us do that better by reshifting those lines as we go down this process. So first order of business tonight, members, is to elect a chairman. So the floor will be open.
Mayor Ketron.
Speaker Pro Tem Phillips, you're recognized.
I've received some feedback, and I'm sure other commissioners have, that relates to public input. And I think the indication there is that this process will be highly politicized, and there'll be a lot of, or potential, gerrymandering going on. Giving that a tremendous amount of thought, it was my intent to take as much of the politics out of this process as possible, and it was my intent to nominate our election administrator, Mr. Farley, to chair this committee. Looking at our resolution that the county commission passed, I considered in section 3 that both Mike and Alan would be members of this committee, but really non-voting members of the committee. But I can see where that would be interpreted differently by others that might look at that. So instead of nominating Alan for this committee tonight, which is my intent, I would recommend that we delay the election of chairman and vice chairman till a later date, possibly even the 23rd of this month, which will be 2 weeks, I think, from today, and send this resolution back to our steering committee and ultimately our county commission, and clarify section 3 and add the GIS analyst and our election administrator as full members of this committee. And I would recommend that they be voting members, but I'll leave that up to the commission, to the steering committee and the county commission as to where that is. So it would be a motion that I would make that we delay the election of chairman and vice chairman until the steering committee and the county commission can revisit this resolution. The reason, once again, that it was my intent to nominate our election administrator is to take as much of the politics as we have out of it, and cut out as much of the division that might be in the community as possible. And I don't think it's anyone's intent to draw lines to include or to exclude any particular segment of the community. It's going to be a very difficult process.
Yes, it will.
I was part of that process 10 years ago. We went through it, and there were some issues that came up. We put another committee together and revisited that, and we want to avoid, I want to avoid those type of conflicts this year as we go through this. And just taking a look at the figures, and I'm sure all of us have to a certain degree, there's going to be tremendous change that goes on as it relates to this redistricting. So I'll make a motion that we delay the election of the chairman and vice chairman and allow our steering committee and county commission to clarify the members of this committee.
So, is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. So that motion would be to send to next Monday night the steering committee, which is the next stated steering committee
On
meeting.
the 7th.
The 7th.
7th, and then the 17th is a full commission meeting.
17th
Yes.
is a full commission.
After it passes through the steering. You bring up a good point, Speaker Pro Tem, in that hypothetically, if you had a meeting, let's say in September, and keeping in mind, as I stated previously, you have a very short window to get this accomplished, but if you had someone that was fell off the ladder, had a car accident, got sick, couldn't show up, then you're down to 3-3. And if Mr. Farley were the chairman, he's not voting and not part of the committee, it would make it difficult for him to be involved, I think. So it's probably a movement in the right direction.
To me, looking at this resolution,
You can't afford to delay another month because tie fails, right?
this thing actually says other following individuals shall attend the redistricting committee, and I'm just thinking that they are members of the committee. If you attend, in my mind, you are, but in some others' minds, I'm sure it would not be. So I'd just like to clarify that.
Yes, right. For to make it crystal clear. So we have a motion and a second. Further discussion on the motion.
So exactly what's going to steering?
The motion.
The motion to add them?
Add them.
Do they
To make-
have voting rights when we add them?
What I feel would be immaterial as opposed to what the steering committee comes up with in the full commission.
Okay.
They could be voting members or non-voting
non-voting
members,
members.
depending on what the
Sure,
steering
what the
committee
steering committee
decides.
So that'll be your committee
Okay.
next Monday night. But at least you're adding them on as members,
Members.
and that's crystal clear that they will be members. So you're taking your committee from 7 to 9. Okay. Other discussion. Okay. Hearing none. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Harris,
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips,
Aye.
Commissioner Blair,
Yes.
Commissioner Gourley,
Yes.
Citizen at Large Marshall,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Ms. Cox,
Yes.
Mr. Farley.
I'll not vote.
Oh yeah, that's right. So vote on those two. All right, motion passes.
Motion passes and goes to steering. So there's no sense in, so we'll pass over electing chair, electing vice chair, TCA statute. Nick, no reason to talk about TCA tonight, right?
I think Mr. Harris had a pamphlet or something from the comptroller that
Well,
was
we have,
very,
I think everybody's got this.
Yeah, I think that's those out.
Everybody's, I've read it and reread it, so everybody has that. Comptroller's recommendation would be in that item number 4. Election Commission remarks.
Yeah, I'm just
few things, a couple things I want to cover. The scope of this committee is actually pursuant, and this is part of your guide that you got from the comptroller. Really, it's pursuant to Tennessee Code 51111A through H. The county legislative bodies are required to redistrict their counties by January 1 of 2022. But this is only, because I've gotten some calls, this is only dealing with the county commission districts.
Correct.
This has nothing to do with state house, state senate, or congressional districts.
That's correct.
So, and of course, city, county, people have kind of some confusion. All this is strictly the county commission districts. The state will draw their districts and they will overlay what this does. It won't change anything that we do, but it will actually be an added layer. So just wanted to clarify that. And this is my fourth one to go through this process. And I know some of you for the first time, some of you been second time, third time, but the structure and the process is the critical part to this. We're on a very short window, and my primary focus is we get this done on time and done in a lawful manner, because it's my doorstep that the candidates are coming to, the public's coming to wanting to know on December the 20th, I want to pick up a petition to run in this, what district am I in? So, it's very
It's so
important.
important that Mike has the tools, electronic tools to help you
Right.
through that process.
Right, and so, from that standpoint, due to COVID, we're 6 months. This is, in the past, we get this information in May.
That's right.
But the last I heard from the comptroller's office, as of today, that we're looking at the 1st of September, at the earliest. And so, in working with them, I said, okay, as soon as you get there, we've got to get this. And of course, all the 5 big counties are in a crunch, really and truly there. So we're going to have a short, narrow window. It's going to be compacted, and we're going to, good thing is this is the short process of redistricting, because the long drawn out process is after all the mapping and all the lines are drawn, is the input, the data input to over 200,000 voters, getting all that information put in so we can mail that out to the voters. So that's very important, of course. And then transparency, open meetings, we're on TV, Rutherford County YouTube channel, and then also open to the public. So, and I'll tell you, some of you are going to feel like you're going through a maze. And when you get to the end of the maze, and you're going to go, well, we got to turn around and go back, because there's going to be parameters that we have to work within. As well, this is not going to work. So we're going to have to we'll fill our way through, and then hopefully we've got 6 questions that we should be able to answer, and we answer those affirmatively, then we know we're good. We move on to the next district. So
And you'll start, I don't know, I don't recall, Alan, how it worked, but you start with the number of our total population, and you start segmenting each commission district. You start with Commission District 1. I remember at the Senate, we started over in Senate District 1 in Far East Tennessee, Mountain City, and then you work your way all the way across.
yeah, I mean, in the past, the 90, 2000, and I'm not sure, I think the 2010 as well. And those, pretty much you got your districts now. So my thing is, my philosophy is, you look and see where your population needs to grow, because the population is probably going to be in certain pockets of the county, and so you deal with that. So there's different ways you pick your starting point, but and doing that. But the thing is that it's going to be could be some long nights, and things may fall into place. We don't know until we get the data and we get the information.
Massaging those numbers.
Yeah, so you take your total number divided by 21, and that's your ideal population, and then you've got a standard deviation of 10% fall either way, and get within that min and max and meet that criteria. That's your focus.
Well, I wish you all luck.
So
Is there any way we have we have figures ourselves. We have population figures ourselves that may not be totally accurate. But is there any way to do some preliminary work before we get the actual state?
It really doesn't matter because we don't really know. I mean, we've got estimates. I mean, the state had an estimate, and then when the census numbers came back, they were now, which was good, because I think there were 40,000 people off their statewide average. Now you take that 40,000, divide that by 95 counties, and then you're only talking small numbers. But we know the growth is in the Middle Tennessee area, so we don't know what part of that is where. So really, because I mean, you're dealing with census blocks, so really, until you have that data. I mean, I wish there was, trust me, because I'd love to get started.
Yep.
But there's really we're handcuffed until we get that data.
And the chamber keeps saying you're getting 29 people a day moving in here. It's crazy.
Yeah, and of course the key thing is that you've got some there's estimates that are out there looking at 2019 estimates and 2018 estimates. I think the estimates I've seen, we're going to fall between 340, 350, if that's right. I don't know. So, but they could all be, and 3 of the county or 4 of the county commission districts is where they're all populated, and then we got to move. So if there's growth that needs to be, or population needs to be moved to the east, you got to start at the east and you pull from the middle, and because what you're doing is you're moving population that way. Because
So there's no way to do any early work, really.
not without the data. I mean, that's it.
Understood. Just a comment that if we would have been more foresighted, we probably would have done something. I don't think we're restricted to do this every 10 years. If we have a huge population growth, the county itself can decide to do some things on
Well,
a...
you
We
have
have to pay for our own census.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to do a countywide census.
Right.
And I think just by looking at estimates, like I said, he's throwing numbers up and trying to sort it out. And you can kind of look in the county based off traffic where the new homes are being built. I think you're going to see the southwestern quadrant of the county is going to be where most of the growth is. So that means, the core of the city, the county, then you've got the north part, and then the east part, there's not been that much development. So, but it's until, because, you take what used to be, like I said, the Clark Maples farm out there off Manchester Highway. Well, that used to be just one big census block. Now you've got, 500 or 600 homes, so those are additional census blocks. Because we've been working on this since 2015 through a lot of the preliminary stuff of creating census blocks, and I think there were some that were in right-of-ways that that were not needed. So working with the Census Bureau on that. So some of that, all that preliminary work's been done. So.
Well, we know that there are a couple of commission districts. No, there's more than a couple, but there are several that are really out of whack right now, really out of whack. And if we would have decided to do something 5 years ago, as an example, instead of wait 10 years since the last one, we would have been able to tweak those districts, and then maybe we wouldn't be in as big a mess as we're in right now, or the decision would be difficult. I guess what I'm trying to say is we probably ought to take a look 5 years from now and see where we are. Just as a perfect example, the Planning Commission a week ago Monday approved well over 300 new lots. It's in 1 month. That's the type of growth that we're experiencing. And if we waited another 10 years after we did this one, we'd probably be in the exact same position that we're in now. So there may be a benefit in taking a look at the possibility of tweaking it midterm, somewhere 5 years or so, and being able to tweak the lines instead of making massive changes like we if those predictions come true, and I'm a believer that they will.
I think you're only seeing this from Rutherford County Planning Commission, you're only seeing a small portion of it, because I had the town of Smyrna send me everything they had done from January of 2020 to through March of 2021, there were 2,450 homes or townhomes in dwellings approved. Multiply that by however many people occupy them, within roughly 1.5 miles of my house. And so that's a significant population growth. Town of Smyrna is running several miles of large sewer out all the way to Rocky Fork Road right now. That's going to open up thousands of homes
Well, they've asked,
in the coming 5 to 10 years.
Smyrna has asked me to approach the commission to pay a percentage of extending the road from Rocky Fork all the way to Brentwood. What's that road where Nissan's located? McEwen Drive.
Yeah, that is exactly right, and that is going to,
That's a lot of,
that's
That-
tremendous amount of
yeah.
growth. The north end of the county may, in my opinion, exceed Murfreesboro.
sure,
And when you combine the two towns,
that's a
the
lot of
city
vacant
of
property out there
Laverne
that will
and
explode.
town of Smyrna, you're probably going to exceed the city of Murfreesboro in the next 10 years.
If that becomes a regional thoroughfare, there's a chance that Rocky Fork will actually get an interchange there,
Correct.
and if that
Yeah.
happens,
That's what the,
that really explodes.
Yeah.
hope to.
So
Yeah.
I think you're right on as far as looking at it, but I don't think I'm not sure we can keep up with it.
I know.
Because like I said, the amount of growth that I'm seeing in the north end, and I'm sure Commissioner Blair sees the same thing, living down there is just phenomenal. And it's it's just, so I think we just got our work cut out for ourselves.
And looking at what Commissioner Phillips was talking about, I went back and looked at the 92 boundaries and looked at the 2002 boundaries in 2010. And really and truly, there's not a lot of variations between, I mean, as far as the districts, because now what you've seen is that some districts have become more compacted,
Right.
some have grown, but so what you do, you're seeing that shift because the population comes and grows. You still have 21 districts, so the population of the size of your district depends on whether, do you have, how many acres or how many blocks per acre is, your high density population districts are smaller versus the larger. So, but since 1992, there, I mean, like District 3, District 11, there's not been hardly any change in the shape. 8 has kind of grown in land mass, 6 has grown in land mass somewhat, but all of your shapes of your districts have pretty much, pretty much expanded, and but not a lot of variation change.
Other comments?
Is this just open for,
Yes, sir.
something I read here, and I don't know if this applies to only state representatives or senate, but in section 2E, it says districts shall be reasonably compact and contiguous and shall not overlap. So we have a school board district that is not presently contiguous.
They don't touch each other.
So,
When 20 contracts, it will be again.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was an overlook that should not have happened. Of course, I was not part of that group then, but that was just something, an oversight. That will be corrected this
okay,
next time.
I just wanted to
Yeah.
clarify.
And that's
that
one of the questions that I've got is, is it compact, is it contiguous? Does the zones for the road and school board, do those, are those contiguous? So yeah, so we're,
Okay, thank you.
that's part of that.
Other comments?
I'm
Mr.
sorry,
Sandler?
Mayor. I just been the chairman 10 years ago on this thing, and you can point your finger however you want to at me. It's fine with me because we all decided as a team when we come in here. Our biggest challenge was putting that school board member in there, that road board member and his representation in there, and your county commissioner in there of where they were today and where they're living. That was really, really, it's nice and easy when you're looking at the Rutherford County map, you look at 21 districts and you can say, oh, you can make nice little circles, squares, triangles, however you want to do it. That'd be great. But that's not the point. You got to put those members that are in there. We put a survey out also before we started last time to ask every county commissioner, every road board member, and every school board member whether they were going to run again. What did they say? Of course they're running again. But then, end result, I think there was about 7 or 8 that didn't run again. And if they would have said that at the beginning, we could have tweaked those numbers a little bit. Or if you didn't have to place those people, county commissioners, in those districts, and you could just do population and do those nice little circles, squares, or triangles, it would be great. But no, you can't do that. You got to put those commissioners in their district. Now that line is either going to be shifting where it's all the way over to the east, back to the west, or up north, or down south. There's where it comes in the challenge of making sure everybody's in there and you're still in your district. That's the toughest part. And I will not be here at any of your other meetings, so good luck.
I'm not complaining. I mean, that job's, we're looking forward. So.
No, it's a tough job, and y'all got a very tough job, like the mayor said at the very beginning.
Other comments?
Yeah, I'd like to make a
Yes, sir.
comment. I think that as mayor and chairman of the commission, that we ask you if you can talk to the commissioners and find out who's running and who's not running, so that we can have that information. I mean, do we agree that's vital information? Well, then
We can poll them.
do you want a motion for that, or?
No, I can
Okay.
do that and report back to you at your next meeting.
I would include the road board and school board members as part of that petition.
Sure.
I mean, you can poll them, but there's no way to hold them to it.
Can't hold it to it.
That's right.
I mean,
And everyone's probably going to tell you, my plan's to run.
yeah. Well, it depends on what day you talk to Veronica, because she came in and took over Joe Frank's. And one day she likes it, and the next day she doesn't, and then she likes it again. So.
I think that's probably any of the.
Yeah, it depends on
Big road board, school
what
board,
the
or-
issues are. Veronica's dealing with the hop springs, and she's got some noise issues out there. But that's the day she doesn't like being the commissioner when the neighbors call. So.
And they call other people too.
Oh yeah, they do if they know you. And sometimes if they don't know you, they're gonna go just because they see your name on there. Other comments? Legal?
Next meeting date?
Do you need to choose the next day?
Well, I would say that probably choose the date after
I would recommend Wednesday, the 23rd.
Wednesday, the 23rd.
Who's the
Okay.
budget meeting?
I don't care.
Okay.
Is anybody in there on budget?
Who else discuss the budget? Anybody?
Nobody's on budget. I think
Okay.
that'd be okay. They could meet in here, we'll meet in
23rd,
there. 23rd, all right?
23rd.
That'd be soon after the
Yes,
county
sir.
commission meeting.
Okay.
We can get finally organized there.
At 5:30.
5:30, I guess, is that,
Yeah.
We're talking July 23rd, correct?
June
No,
23rd?
June. Yes, ma'am.
And that would be the last meeting until we get the data.
That's correct.
So probably September.
But
Well, you'll.
what time does the budget committee meet?
5:30.
Budget's 5:30, that's correct. Full commission's at 6.
Really, our business is going to be very limited that day. If we wanted to meet
It
earlier, we
shouldn't
could
take
meet.
more than 20 minutes.
We could meet earlier, couldn't we?
Well, budget, goes in there, we could come in
Still
here.
come in there, budget will be in
So
there.
it's entirely up to
Once again,
The only one that would be any different would be Dick.
Nick.
But I would need to be at both.
But there would be a recording of this meeting showed at a later time. I'm sure the budget committee is going to be live. This will still be recorded.
Yes, this will still be
and to
recorded.
the public, okay.
I'm just,
So what's the time?
nobody wants a clone of me, trust me.
And we're still doing the 5:30?
You can stand at the door.
Doesn't matter to me.
5:30.
Carolyn, what's your
23rd.
I'm flexible.
Is everybody good? Ms. Cox, you okay? All right. Everybody good? Well, sounds like got a plan. This motion will travel to steering and then full commission. Next meeting will be on the 23rd of June, back in here in room 205. We'll get out notice, public notice will be sent out. Miss Allen, thank you for coming tonight. All the other citizens at large. Anything else to come for us? Hearing none, motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion and a second. We're adjourned.